Good evening and welcome. I'm Sheila Balgobin and I am the Dream Decipherer, and I help you to crack the code of your sleep and dreams so you can sleep sound and dream deep. This evening, this is a single dream but with three acts and involves stone toilets, protesters, and flooding. So let's get into it and see what the connection is between these different elements. The dreamer reports that he went on a family trip into town, into central London, and they stayed in the apartment of a neighbor. And during this visit, the dreamer reported that he went into the bathroom, which had a very expensive stone basin and toilet seat. And when he sat on it, the toilet fell over and broke. So that's the first bit. Then the dreamer reports that he took his children to a community fun day, or community center that was having a fun day, but the day was actually pretty quiet, without a lot of activity because there were activists demonstrating outside the entrance. The dreamer reports that the most of the people there, or most of the activists, were teenage girls, and apparently the father and kids stopped to talk to them and find out what was going on. And as it turned out, the dreamer and his family either knew who they were or they were sympathetic with their cause. The cause being unknown, it doesn't specify. Then the dreamer reports that they go for a walk. I'm assuming it's the family that at this point that the father and the two sons, or three sons, were going for a walk nearby. And they passed by the town hall or city hall, but the road, for whatever reason, was flooded. Perhaps there was a burst pipe or something. But there was deep water in the street, and while the dreamer reports that he was wearing his Nike Airs, he was concerned that because the laces were loose, that they would actually slip off his feet in the water while he was walking. And there ends the dream. That's the third and final act. So if we take each section, and see what's going on with each one. And in the first third of the dream, the family is traveling into town and stayed with a neighbor. So it made me think of the expression, a home away from home. That's feeling comfortable someplace that's not actually yours. But apparently it was a neighbor or a former neighbor, so that they were comfortable with them and were able to stay in the home. Now, there was much made of this stone basin and toilet seat in this neighbor's bathroom. Now, it was expressly stated that these items were quite expensive. I have a tendency to think of something like Carrara marble from Italy or something. But whatever they were made, these stone basins were made of, they were quite expensive. And it made me think that about attitudes rather than things, and being fixed or set in stone. Perhaps referring to rigid attitudes or ways of looking at things. It also made me think about Roman toilets. In the Roman days, the toilets were communal, with everybody doing whatever they had to do, sitting right next to their neighbors and gossiping and whatnot while they did it. Now, that communal spirit with regard to toilet matters is in contrast to modern attitudes where we close doors and go behind closed doors to actually go to the bathroom. So there's something about being communal in public, but keeping certain matters private. Now, the toilet itself can represent any number of things, but I would ask the dreamer, what do toilets evoke for the dreamer besides the obvious? I mean, yes, we know what toilets are used for, but what else could it possibly be a stand-in for? I came up with the idea that toilets, yes, are representative of elimination, of getting rid of waste, and being that the fact that this toilet was made of stone made me think of even hardened attitudes or hardened things that are difficult to get rid of, sort of constipation in stone form, you might say. The dreamer sits on the toilet, this throne, if you will, and as it happens, he's in London, which is the capital city or head of the UK. So there's something there, perhaps. But the dreamer sits on this toilet, and it apparently is not bolted down, falls over and breaks this very expensive stone toilet. So it made me want to question the dreamer and ask: is the in a metaphorical sense, is the weight of the dreamer just too much to bear, and so that the stuff that's trying to be eliminated is actually overwhelming, not only the dreamer but perhaps the toilet as well? Or another way of putting that is what the dreamer had to get rid of was so heavy that it threatened to actually break the toilet or the dreamer by extension. So we'll leave that for the moment and look at the second section of the dream. And the dreamer reports being out with his children on a fun day at a local community center. And I just wonder if that is in some way a reference to the new lockdown restrictions due to COVID that have been put in place for the last several days now. There was a low level of activity, which corresponds to lockdown, and there was a demonstration going on at this community center of being held by teenage girls. Now, it's interesting that there has been a lot of kind of upset and protest from younger people because they're being restricted, and it's making them fall behind in school. It's making them depressed because they can't get out and have fun and be with their friends. So I wonder if these teenage girls were actually protesting about that, though the dreamer does not specify what exactly they were protesting about. But what was interesting about this is that the dreamer kind of splits this group of teenage girls into sort of two groups. One where some of the girls were known, and the other where the dreamer was supporting or supportive of their cause, whatever that was. And now my questions for the dreamer were, well, why were the girls protesting at this community center? Is it because it's closed, or that they're not offering full activities? What was the reason for them to actually be protesting at the entrance? Now, it's like I said, there's a curious kind of division between these. Some of the girls were known, some of the ones were supported. If all of the girls were in harmony with regard to this protest, why would you split them up as to be supporting them and then some of them being known? It's just a kind of curious that. Now, moving on from there to the third part, the family, and I assume it's the dreamer and the two children, or two or three children, but has the wife reappeared at this point? She seems to have dropped off the radar by the third part of this dream. But in any case, the family go for a walk near the local town hall or city hall, but the road, for whatever reason, was flooded. As perhaps burst pipes, who knows what could have been going on. But again, there's the impression of being overwhelmed, and I wonder again if this is a reference in some way to the government or government in general and their battle against COVID or other issues. And perhaps the government is drowning in it, they're overwhelmed by it, and this is kind of indicative of that. Since it occurs near the town hall, near the seat of government. So perhaps the government itself is what's being flooded with all kinds of multiple responsibilities and trying to juggle them all. The dreamer reports that he was wearing loosened pair of Nike Airs. I don't know if what the significance for the dreamer is of Nike Airs. What does that mean? Why was it specifically mentioned instead of saying a pair of sneakers or a pair of trainers, Nike Airs? What is it that is important about the fact that they were Nike Airs? In any case, the dreamer is upset or worried that this pair of trainers or sneakers would come off his feet while he was walking through this flooded street. Now, if we stop here for a moment, water, particularly in terms of the unconscious mind, often or usually is represented by water. So water is a kind of stand-in for emotions. I mean, they say that the unconscious is like the conscious mind rather is like a cork bobbing on the ocean of the unconscious. The unconscious is much more vast than our conscious mind, the part of us that says I or recognizes itself as me. So I would question the dreamer here as to whether this water, this rising water, is or flooding of water or escaping water is indicative in some way of the dreamer's state of mind or indicative of a particular situation. Now, the other thing is that he's worrying about losing the trainers in this flooded street, and I wonder if there's something about the footwear itself. This footwear allows him to walk on the ground and be literally grounded. But with the water washing over everything, it makes it more difficult to keep to your feet. So the emotions perhaps sweeping away, if we look at the water as representative emotion, is emotions in a certain area of the dreamer's life actually in danger of sweeping the dreamer off his feet and making him ungrounded. The other thing about this part of the dream, whereas it traveled at the beginning of the dream was either by car or some other mode of transport, since they were traveling into town, and the children and the dad were walking around to see the community center and then to the town hall, and again, travel and the modes of travel that we use will often stand in as representative of our journey through life. Sometimes we're moving faster, sometimes we're moving slower, sometimes we're at a dead standstill. In this dream, though we don't know how the dreamer got into town, at the beginning of the dream, he was on foot the rest of the dream, which implies moving along at one's own pace, at a slower rate of progress than taking a car or train or bus or whatever it is, but it gets him where he's going, just more slowly. Now, Here you have three very, very different things going on. You've got a visit with a cracked, cracked toilet, protesters, and you've got floodwaters. So, what connects all of them? Well, that remains for the dreamer to determine what the actual connection is, but the clues that I would leave for the dreamer to mull over or is that the first thing being this visit at and staying with a friend, that it kind of implies being at home, but while not being at home. So, a home away from home, being in another space. The home can, in terms of our dreams, often represent our inner life. The different rooms of the house or building can represent different aspects of our lives. And this is interesting that while the dreamer is at home in somebody else's home, he's not at home. And I wonder if there's a kind of feeling of being not comfortable in one's skin, not feeling quite at home, either with oneself or with others. That's something for the dreamer to perhaps look at. There's also seems to be an overturning, in one case literally, of the convention or established order. In the very first dream, it was the very first part of the dream, it was this literal turning over with the toilet seat cracking and breaking, which means that it also implies that it's not very safe, it's not very secure. And that theme is picked up again with the loose sneakers. They're unloose, they're untied or loose in any case, and they're in danger of slipping off the dreamer's feet. So there's something about unsure footing, perhaps. And you have the protesters who are overturning ideas, whatever they were protesting about, maybe protesting that the community center should be open or it should be closed. Who knows what exactly they were protesting, but it was overturning the established order, whatever that may have been. And then again, coming back to possibly losing the trainers walking through the streets in these floodwaters. The water representing emotion. Is there some area in the dreamer's life where they are perhaps in danger of losing control or having their emotions sweeping them away, so that they lose their footing and groundedness at some level? Now, there's also movement of some kind also implied in these three sections of this dream. Physical movement in the case of the beginning and the end of the dream, but in the middle, kind of sandwiched in between, is a movement, a mental movement, a shift in thinking or behaving, so that there's a movement but of a different kind. So there you have it. You have stone toilets, protesters, and floodwaters all together. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Have a great evening and rest of the week, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.